what are the needs here? I've got guards, Nate Johnson, David Castillo, Xavier Wilson, true freshman coming in. You've got Andre Kostic, Abdi Bashir on the wing, Moby, Kamari McGriff, Elias Rapique, Taj Manning, maybe Tyreek Smith at forward. We'll see what happens there, with his whole waiver / appeal process, everything that's going on. So how are we feeling about this right now?
Well, I don't know about Cole, but I almost think you're set at the wing, at least from a quantity standpoint, if you land Marcus Johnson, right? Technically, like you have actually at this point quite a bit of wings. Where last year, I think one of the issues was not enough wings, right?
Yeah.
So that's the interesting thing. But I would like to see maybe a more physically imposing big that's a little bit, more physically daunting than kind of the small ball fives they technically have right now in McGriff and Tyreek Smith. So I think that, and then assuming Rapique's in the fold, I think you're kind of filled 2, 3, and 4, and that would give you 11 players if Rapique's in the fold, if Marcus Johnson's in the fold, if Tyreek Smith is in the fold. So then I would go get a guy that can be a distributor, a guard, and a big that's a little bit more physically daunting than the two that you're probably going to be playing with a little bit here that are probably more small ball fives.
Sounds about right to me. I mean, and I guess the other point is, like, if you think about Marcus Johnson potentially in the fold is, I mean, Phil Byer will have his work cut out, but you got to assume they'll have a nutrition and training plan because, like, they could also consider him as a pick and pop 4 type if they wanted to. But that will be dependent upon how much he plays on the wing, how much he could play in the 4 position. Could be dependent upon how much can he shed? Can they get him down to that 240 range and give him a little more athleticism and quickness to be able to defend in terms of dictating where he plays? But yeah, I think they need a point guard still. And then, probably a best player available type, whoever that might be. Maybe it's somebody still in Europe as they scour the grounds there.
I don't know. I kind of think of big, but you don't. Yeah.
I mean, so we're assuming Tyreek Smith is in that scenario. They have McGriff. I mean, those are probably your 2 5s.
And they're kind of small ball fives now.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big would make sense as well, especially if you land a point guard, as we talk about that to be your 12th player, then a big probably makes sense because you've got enough guards and wing types.
I mean, like the 2s and 3s on this roster, you got Bashir, Nate Johnson, Kostic, Castillo. And then Marcus Johnson can play the 3 if you get him. I just think you have enough there. I think you need 1. And in 4s, you got Rapique and Moby and Taj and Marcus Johnson if he could play there. Maybe McGriff in a pinch. I just think you're a little light at 1 and 5 because I don't know if David Castillo is really a 1.
Yeah, kind of combo guarding.
Yeah, you can play with a bunch of combo guards, so maybe that's what we'll do too. So
yeah, I guess like the best player available thing kind of becomes what they did with Coleman Hawkins last year, right? You wait and see what happens with the draft, who stays in, who pops out, and maybe you can make a run at somebody there at the end. That's, I guess, best case scenario. Find some under the radar point guard, and then somebody big like that winds up being available. You wind up being able to nail that down. That would probably be the best case scenario for the roster. Because I don't know, guys. I mean, looking over I realized I was the guy that said at the beginning of the offseason, like, hey, I'm not going to get too high, too low on the portal. Let's just see what the roster looks like when they start playing games. Maybe they hit some home runs, going a little bit more under the radar this year. So I'll afford them that benefit of the doubt. But looking at it on paper, I mean, I don't know. I'm not getting terribly excited about that roster, to be completely honest.
This is not a roster that is, in my opinion, near the talent that they had last year. But that, to be fair, that was a group that underachieved. So I'm not saying this is like, oh, does that mean we're going to have a losing record? It didn't have to mean that. I think last year's group of talent largely and overwhelmingly underachieved and underwhelmed. What they have composed and collected so far is almost, I would say, maybe even significantly less talented. But I would say they're significantly tougher and significantly kind of the right guys, though. I don't know if that makes sense. A little more grittiness and toughness, probably a group that's going to be easier to root for, even if they are less talented.
Well, maybe. I mean, we're talking about him adding two guys that are very poor defensively, though.
Yeah, but I still view them as physical, tough players too.
I mean, I just, as they sit here today, like, let's just pretend Marcus Johnson's in the fold and he commits to Kansas State after his visit, and they've got 11 guys, and we're assuming Rapique's in and Tyreek Smith gets his waiver. Let's assume all of that, which is a lot to assume, but let's go down that road. I still don't think they're close to an NCAA tournament team based off the roster composition, and you only have 2 spots left to fill. So, I mean, I think you have to land a stud at that point to really get it to the point where they're even a contender for the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. And that stud is going to cost a lot of money because you're going to have to beat out, because there's only a handful of them left. I mean,
and we don't even know how much they have left, how much they had to spend on the guys they even do have now. So there's some constraints there too.
We're talking about the PJ Haggertys of the world, the Darian Williams, who doesn't seem realistic, Jameer Watkins, which we just talked about. They're loaded up at wing now. So is that really a fit if it was a Jameer Watkins type? RJ Lewis, probably not a fit either. He's another wing type. So, I mean, those are the guys that are more of the home run types that are still out there that are going through the NBA draft process.